Now, I work with some of the biggest property investors, hedge funds, and international clients that are looking to get the best return on their capital. So why is it investors are taking payment plans over mortgages? Now, let me make this caveat very clear. Mortgages is the best way to enter the property market. Everybody that buys a home, including myself, puts down a mortgage on a property. Now, I made that very clear. Mortgage is the number one thing that's the life cycle of buying properties. But when you're talking about off-plan, there's a real big difference between why people are making more money in off-plan versus a mortgage. Now, let's break it down. If you buy a property for 1 million dirhams and you put 20% down as a down payment, your actual mortgaged amount is 800,000 dirhams. Now, if you take a 4.99 or 4.5% interest on your money, just to break that down for anybody watching this, if you borrow 800,000 dirhams, you will pay 4.5% interest per year. Now, if you times that by 20-year mortgage, you're actually at nearly 100% of the value that you loaned. And that's where the banks make their money. The banks will facilitate you to get you on the property ladder, and you may not feel the pinch because you know your mortgage broker and lender has said to you, hey, Lewis, your mortgage amount is 5,000 a month. When you break down the numbers, the amount of money you're actually spending on your interest out of the repayment, if you say your mortgage amount is 5,000, nearly 2,500 is actually interest paid back to the bank. So that leaves the question, why are investors choosing payment plans? Payment plans and off-plan work in a very different way. You're basically financing with your own cash. So if a developer launches a unit for $1 million, they may say to you, you put 10% down to reserve the unit, and then 10% in 6 months, and you complete the unit all the way to maybe 50 or 60%. What that does for the developers, it gives them money to build. But what it does for the client is you're not paying any interest on your money put down. So when you get to 50 or 60% paid, that is full capital. You've not paid half interest, you've not paid half into the bank. That is your money. And on completion, you will fully pay it. If you can't fully pay it, you will finance the rest. But it means that you are not losing half of the repayment specifically to the bank. Now, what this cycle afterwards would happen is that if you don't rent the unit out, that unit would probably enter the market for a first-time buyer that would buy it with a mortgage, and then they would pay you your interest, your capital and everything back to you in your profit. And the new home purchase that was a tenant before potentially is no longer paying rent. So the tenant also wins because when you pay rent, you gain nothing. You're paying the 100% capital of your rent to the landlord. The next ecosystem is then when you buy, you then pay 50% of the money to the bank and 50% back to yourself. And in 20 years, you will own the property cash. So it leads me to ask the question, which way is the best way to make money? And if I'm honest with you, they're both different because off-plan, you win by using your own money and a lower down payment. But where you win in ready property is you're no longer renting, which is a huge misconception that is free money. You have to pay rent somewhere, but a lot of people seem to alienate that from their brain that they don't pay that. But secondly, you're leveraging the whole amount of the property against the 20% down payment. So let me give you a quick example. If you buy a property for $1 million and you've only put 200,000 down, if that property goes to 1.2, you've made 200,000. But you've actually made 200,000 on your 200,000 that you put down. So your return on investment is 100% on your deposit down. And that's why property will always be a better investment than most stocks and shares in the property market.